Welcome to The Daily Dish with New York Times bestselling author Leanne Ely. Putting vibrancy back into your everyday life and feeding your heart, mind, body, and soul. Join us every day at 1 p.m. Eastern for Motivational Monday, Tuesday's Tip, Wise Woman's Wednesday, Thirsty Thursday, Food Fight Friday, and of course Q&A, where no question is off limits, and Soulful Saturday. Here is your host, Leanne Ely, and The Daily Dish.
It's FriYAY! Are you excited? The weekend is right here at your fingertips. Can you feel it? And you know what FriYAY means here? FriYAY, Friday, whatever you want to call it. It means it's Q&A time. And just full disclosure, this is a recorded show, recorded earlier in this day, this Friday. So I will not be greeting you as you come in, but just know that I see you, I've got your back, and I'm delighted that you're here. Got some really good questions today, but before we get to those, I want to share our quote of the week because I think it's it is a cosmic 2x4, shall we say. Your life isn't yours if you constantly care about what others think. Isn't that awesome? It's so good. And this is our last day for this. Of course, our quote of the day, or quote of the week rather, always changes on Saturday, and we wrap up the week's theme, which this week has been all about making your own personal magic. And that will be on Saturday. And then again on Monday, Motivational Monday, we start with a new theme for the week and our brand new quote that we just got on Saturday. We have a whole thing going. We have a pattern. We know how this whole thing works. So I also want to say to everyone, thank you so much for making our gala a huge success. And we are working our little fanny bones off, trying to get everything put together and sent to you in a very timely way. We're asking for a little patience because it is going to take us a minute. You know, we're a small operation. We do small batch supplements, and I've told you before that our supplements are formulated by a woman and made for women, just like you and me. And this is what sets us apart as being very different and very unique. Also, like I said, they're small batch, so we don't have tons and tons and tons of inventory. We keep it small on purpose so that you can have the freshest, most quality ingredients possible for your supplements. That's why they're so effective. So that said, we are not in a back order situation. At least I don't believe we are right now. But we're working, like I said, we're working our tails off to get them out the door. Patience is such a virtue. You may find your order split. You may not, but I'm just letting you know that we had a lot of people who ordered all of the flash deals. So that means big boxes, y'all. And we're delighted and we're thankful for that. So thank you again for that. And if you have any questions, of course, send them into support@savingdinner.com and we will happily answer them and make sure that you feel supported and cared for. Okay? Number two, now the other thing that we have coming up this Monday is the Collagen Challenge. We begin our next challenge. And we've been doing the Hydration Challenge, and now we're moving into the Collagen Challenge. Last Monday was the webinar. If you haven't seen it, you can still go and see it and get the guide, savingdinner.com/collagen. We roll through our challenges, and we've done this on purpose because we have found with our community anyway, it works because we go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. It keeps us in front of mind, so to speak, our reticular activating system firing at all times to keep us on, doing the thing that we need to do, not going off the rails and going crazy when somebody brings donuts in on Friday morning. Is that you, by the way? Don't do it. Don't fall for the poison. It's the same old trick, and you know what the result's going to be, so don't do it. Stay with your program. And we're now going to be going on Monday, and Monday night, we're going to have our Stay Strong Challenge, or Get Strong, Stay Strong. Now, this is one of the most important things. I always say this, but it's true. It is part of that whole structure, that whole framework that helps you to become the vibrant woman you want to be. Without having strength, we lose our muscle mass. We lose our bone mass as well. You know, the two go hand in hand. And if we're not strong, we're going to have aches and pains, and we're not going to be able to keep up with grandchildren or children even, we're not going to feel our most vibrant selves. And being strong doesn't mean that you're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger's, younger sister or something. You're not. It means, though, that you're going to find a new sense of vitality, a new sense of strength, and you're going to see your body change too, because strength training equals completely transforming the way your body looks. Because here's the thing. You lose weight and you look a certain way, you're just going to look like a smaller version of yourself, losing fat. You use weights, though, including your body weight, including bands, including all kinds of things. That changes the very dynamic, the very structure of what your body will look like and feel like. So there's functional fitness, there's all kinds of fitness, and it's all taught in this Get Strong Challenge. And I really hope that you would consider joining us for this. It is on this Monday coming up. Go to savingdinner.com/strong. And by the way, I've decided just to add a touch of fun into our webinars. And we're going to have a little music and we're going to have a little girl time. So listen, if you're into chair dancing like the rest of us are, you can even throw on your tiara if you want to. But join us for this webinar. It's going to be good and very informative. savingdinner.com/strong. That's also where you can pick up the guide, which is free. Okay? And that will be on the following Monday when we start that. Like we're not churning them out to make you crazy. We're doing it to keep you on track. The rails, nobody wants to go off the rails. It's scary falling off that cliff. I want you to stay focused and stay the course. Deal? All right. Also, the pop-up boutique is open for our new Full Bloom coming up this September. September 11th is the day for Full Bloom. Virtual tickets will be available forever, but are attending for people who want to attend, we will be cutting that off shortly. So I'm letting you know, if you want to start planning and thinking about getting here to Brevard so that you can be a part of this dynamic community, it's going to be something in person. Very hands-on, an incredible dinner. There's a VIP meet and greet that's happening on Friday night in my home. And then if you're still hanging out, you can come over on Sunday after the whole event and have brunch at our house. And we're putting Mark to work. He's going to be making that happen. There will be Bloody Marys involved because that's how we roll. I want you to be there, obviously, and I want you to check it out, though, and see what it's all about. This is not our first rodeo. We've done these several times. We're just now getting back to the in-person part. That's at savingdinner.com/bloom. All the details are there, okay? And then, of course, the pop-up boutique that goes with it. You can find all of the merchandise and new stuff. I mean, we got some really cool things, including something for your dog. Go to savingdinner.com/pop. That's where we put our pop-up boutiques, okay? Let's get to the questions because there's some really good ones in here. The first one is from Corliss, who says, I need to get the big thyroid test. What do I ask for? My insurance advocate told me to find out what it's called, and she will check with my insurance to see if it's covered. The doctor always orders the small one, and then he calls me and tells me everything came back fine. Can you see the steam coming off the top of my head? That's the heat I'm feeling right now. You're fine. You're fine. But I'm still having fatigue and my hair's falling out. You mentioned one time we might need the bigger test. Thanks. Okay, let me just say this. Every woman on the planet, if your hair's falling out, you need the big test. Okay? Unexplained fatigue, you need the big test. Thyroid levels go from here to there. They used to go from 0 to, 13 or something. Now they've pared it down to 8. If you're at 8 or 7 or whatever, you're in the normal range and you're in the normal range. I think they've even brought it down to 4. But let me just tell you, you will still be plagued with fatigue. You will still have hair falling out. Your thyroid is the master gland, really, if you will, for your metabolism. And if your metabolism is slow and sluggish, guess what else is slow and sluggish? The whole rest of you. And your body is not at optimal levels. And being plagued with fatigue, who wants that? Who wants their hair falling out? I had lost 3/4 of my eyebrows. I had just this part of my eyebrow. That was it. And then I had because I was for so many years like that, I went and had tattoos done so that I could have a full eyebrow, and while they're faded and almost gone and underneath, this is my hair with a little eyebrow pencil, of course, because my eyebrows are so fair. They can grow back, but it grows back with a very direct way. There's a direct way to do this. There's a way that you can get into it, and hopefully, this will be for you as well. So the test that you need to ask for is a full thyroid panel, full thyroid plus antibodies. The thing is, what happens a lot of times with doctors, and even I've seen this with integrative doctors, because I had an integrative doctor say this to me, which annoyed the everything out of me. And that was this, that if you are hypothyroidism, there is a 95% chance that you also have an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. That means that your antibodies are attacking and trying to destroy your thyroid. Otherwise, hypothyroidism just means that your body's just a little bit depleted and needs more thyroid hormone. The difference between the two is that one is an autoimmune disease and one is an exhausted thyroid. So there's two different things. And unfortunately, a lot of doctors will say, hey, we treat them the same, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is if it's an autoimmune disease, there is something that you need to be looking at and you need to be addressing. I went for so many years with hypothyroidism and feeling terrible, getting my dose increased, and nothing changing. Couldn't lose weight, couldn't get my eyebrows to grow back or my hair. I had patches of hair missing. None of it changed. And the fatigue, it's like somebody took the air out of all of your tires. And it wasn't until I had the full panel done and I finally had a diagnosis that this was an autoimmune disease, and I changed everything. Okay? Which I will be answering fully in one of our next questions from Jerry, who asked about this. But I just want to say to you right now, before I park this question, Corliss, that if your doctor says, if your insurance advocate comes back and she says, sorry, but that's just not covered, that's usually the way it is. Do you know that you can do this for less than $200 out of pocket? You can order your tests yourself. This is one of the things that has changed a little bit, that we have the opportunity to do, that we can buy our own tests. Now, I do mine on lifeextension.com. I find that's a great place to go get tests. I find them on Amazon as well, but you can order your own tests. And I found a test, I think it was at Life Extension, I'm not sure exactly, but I found a full thyroid panel for $119. You can order that yourself. I also found there's antibody tests, and I didn't see what the price on those were. But knowing is everything, and knowing where your antibody levels were. Now, when mine came back, they were in the thousands. It was like 20,000, then we got them down to 13,000 and kept testing to see where they were. But I can tell you, even if you don't test, if you have this kind of stuff going on, I would, if I was a betting woman, I'd put all my money on it in Las Vegas and say, Corliss has Hashimoto's, But I'm going to tell you right now, my full belief, even though the doctors will say, that's just what it is, you're always going to have it, it's only going to get worse, all we can do is up your thyroid medication. I don't believe that for a moment, because I had 3 huge thyroid nodules. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. I had in the 20,000s of the antibodies, and your antibodies should be 0, by the way. So we had full-blown war going on in my thyroid. I weighed 237 pounds. I had the energy of, a flea on its way out. It was just terrible. And I'm going to tell you about all of that. But I also want to, the type of thyroid that you're taking is also really important. The more bioidentical, the better. Your body recognizes stuff that it already makes. And even though there's some people that it's better for them to go with the synthetic, I always say use the bioidentical. I use WP Thyroid and it makes all the difference in the world. I had one doctor one time take me off and said, let's try this synthetic. Let's see how you do. And I felt like I was back at square one, and they had a theory on this whole thing, completely wrong. Not for me, didn't work, not one bit. And I got right back to square one. So take my word for it. If you are in this position, then this is the thing that you need to do. And it is an art form, in my opinion, and a craft, really, to be with the right doctor that knows how to dial in your thyroid. I would become also, Corliss, become an advocate for yourself. Start reading. Both Alan Christensen, who is a naturopathic physician, phenomenal. He's the one who got me into remission with those 3 big nodules. They were gone. The whole thing. I can tell you story after story about that. And I'm going to kind of go through it a little bit with Jerry in just a minute. But what I want you to do is to check Alan Christensen. You can check his website. You can read his books. Also, Isabella Wentz. Both are dear friends, by the way, and I trust them emphatically with thyroid information. There's so much that can go on with the thyroid. It's tricky. And I will tell you, there's a lot of people out there who doctors too, really don't do a very good job with helping you. And they say, well, that's just the way it is. Here, have an antidepressant. Here, have a sleep pharmaceutical, something or other. Here, have this, here, have that, more medications. And the whole thing is getting you back to the place where your body starts to take care of itself and correct as much as possible, heal if possible. And again, my story is one of healing. So I will tell you about that. So Jerry's question says, as you heard today, I have Hashimoto's. I could use a plan for nutrition and exercise. I'm pretty sure I'm doing it already, but I was just wondering what else I should be doing. Thank you, Jerry. Okay, well, Jerry, first of all, too, I think just based on some other things that you had said that I think you need an anti-yeast diet. It's a Candida diet. If you Google Candida diet, what you're going to find is basically the sprint. No sweet whatsoever, carbohydrates to an absolute screeching halt. And if I were you, what I would do is I would be 30 days doing the sprint wholesale all the way through. No fudging, no cheese, no little bit of, just a piece of bread, none of it, because you got to get that all under control. It is also affecting your thyroid. So that said, follow the sprint to the letter. This is the absolute template of what needs to be happening here. Okay, just do that. That the nutrition part is easy. We can dial that in easily. You will feel so much better. Your skin will respond. By the way, anything else that you have going on, that will all respond, because your body will be looking for correction, looking for the foods that's going to help you to heal and fuel this. And that's the sprint. The sprint is your basic anti-inflammatory diet. You've got some inflammation going on here. Anyone with Hashimoto's, there's inflammation going on and an autoimmune disease. Now, in my opinion, on autoimmune disease, there's a plethora of thousands of them. It's the same disease, just figuring out a way to what you're going to attack. And unfortunately, when you have your thyroid being corrupted really by all those antibodies trying to destroy it, and that's the metabolism, that's the center of your metabolism, really. It leads to full on fatigue. So even, and I would say the type of exercise that you're doing, I would be doing HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training. Okay. That's what HIIT's, HIIT. No long-term running, nothing that's going to bring on the cortisol, because what happens with the cortisol is that's the stress hormone. And one of the things for women who have thyroid issues is oftentimes they have cortisol imbalance too, which means that your cortisol's up at night when you're trying to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's down during the day when you need it. And you're sitting at the desk just going, wanting to fall asleep. That's super not helpful, right? We need our cortisol to be under control. We need it to be working when we need it and down when we don't need it. So that's part of the other thing. I would start, it's a lifestyle intervention here. It's not just diet and exercise, but a lifestyle intervention. And when it really started to come together for me was when I started putting meditation into the equation, because that centers you, it allows you to relax, and it brings the stress hormones down. It brings your center of awareness up, and it helps. It's a coping mechanism, it really is. And I believe that for a lot of women, that thyroid issues come from, and this sounds a little woo-woo, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I believe it's from a lot of women who feel like they don't have a voice in their life. Look at where your thyroid is, right there at the throat, and not speaking up when you should be, and and just kind of putting up. And I noticed this with myself, and I remember very clearly having this wallop. I remember I heard Oprah say something like, because she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And she was saying how she felt like, she didn't have a voice in her life, or some such thing a long time. And I never really put that all together, but I saw it in myself when I was sitting at the hairdresser. This is years ago. And she said, well, there you go. How do you like it? And I didn't. And I said, oh, it's great. Thank you. And I got home and I was crying and trying to fix my hair and all of that. And I thought, I could have spoken up. I could have said something, but me and my people-pleasing mode didn't. I wanted to keep the peace at any cost, at my own peace cost. I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't want to, whatever, fill in the blank. But part of our whole thing with Hashimoto's, with thyroid issues, is coming to terms with a lifestyle intervention. It doesn't happen because you eat more kale, It doesn't happen because you say, I'm no more dairy and I'm going to start HIIT training. Those are all important, but everything else fits in as well, including getting yourself centered, including using your voice, including making different decisions for your life, including being positive, including going forward, including building and measure and mending relationships that you can, and maybe even deciding, well, you know what? That's toxic. I can't have that in my life anymore. Whether you're talking about food, relationships, or, living in a house that's full of mold, all of these things have intervene either for us or against us. And we have to be very, very, very interested in all this. I mean, right down to your toothpaste. Does your toothpaste have fluoride in it? Well, go Google fluoride plus thyroid issues and take a look. That's going to be a problem too. It goes on and on and on. And, we don't look at all of this. We think it's going to be that easy to fix. And it's a complete intervention. I was burning out on all this exercise. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I had a trainer. I was working out so hard and I couldn't get past square one. And I was taking thyroid medication, but I was burning myself out. It was too hard, too rough. That's why I said, shorten it up, do a HIIT training, do some weightlifting, and call it a day. Take a day off in between, rest, sleep, take naps on the weekends if you need to, hydrate accordingly. All of these things are the things that are going to move the needle on your thyroid. There's so much involved, and there's so much that, honestly, a sluggish thyroid happens a little bit as we get older too. A lot of women, I believe, should get a full panel. If you're feeling tired and you're feeling sluggish and can't figure out how to get, your get up and go, or where it got up and went, then it's time to start looking at this, especially women over 50. It starts to happen just a little bit where thyroid gets hit. It is also hereditary. The women in my family, my mother had Hashimoto's, my sister has Hashimoto's, I've got Hashimoto's, right? But it is how you respond to it, because it doesn't have to be that big of a thing. Now, I had 3 huge nodules. Ask your doctor. Here's another thing, and this is also for Corliss. Ask your doctor to palpitate and feel for the nodules. Do you know I had to ask a doctor to do that? Because they were just sitting there, they wouldn't, this is pre-COVID too. And I said, don't you want to feel my thyroid? And they were like, oh, okay. Just what happened to doctoring? This is how you know. They can't just look at it and see. They got to feel it. And they, oh yeah, you've got thyroid, you've got nodules. And it was Alan who told me that I had nodules in the first place. And then I went and saw the doctor and said, this is what I was told. And this is my friend, and he's blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh, okay. And I said, don't you want to feel them? Sometimes we have to ask for what we want, and we have to make sure that they understand that we are doing our homework. It's never helpful, by the way, to go to a doctor and say, I heard, or I was, watching a podcast, or, I read. Instead, find that study. Find the study. So whatever it is that you're saying to your doctor that you want, you need to back it up with the research. And all you have to do is put in there and just say Hashimoto's, plus remission, plus research. What does it show? Bring that to the doctor. And that's what it's going to be. That's what's going to help. But there's a video on Facebook, Saving Dinner Facebook, from a few years ago. You have to go through the archives. That shows me getting an ultrasound of my thyroid, which is one of the things that you should request, by the way, and make sure that there's not a bunch of nodules in there. Also, that's also a scan to make sure that you don't have cancer. Thyroid cancer is on the rise big time. And the ultrasound showed that there's nothing, that those nodules were all gone. Everything was all clear, and I had a healthy looking thyroid. Alan Christensen did the ultrasound, and you can watch it live. I'm not live, but you can watch the recording of it. That was a moment for me that I will never forget as long as I live, because I have fought this disease for so long. So those are the things that I have to say about that. I'm sure there's probably a thing or two that I may have missed. And yes, we are going to have a webinar on thyroid. I think it's one of the most important things, and not tested well enough. Obviously, Corliss is asking about this. And Jerry, I want to make sure. Well, Jerry, obviously you've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, so they did the test. But we need baselines. We need to know where we are. Sorry, excuse me. That was delicate. But anyway, those are, we need to know these things. We need to know where we are. It's sort of, you get a baseline mammogram, right? You get baseline everything. We get baseline thyroid tests even. Baseline tests for your eyes. Baseline. We need this to know about our thyroid too, especially with the increase in thyroid cancer, and especially that we who got these thyroid issues just need to treat this master gland of ours with utter respect, and feed our bodies the way they need to be fed, hydrating, exercise the way we need to be, and getting plenty of sleep. Really critical and important. This is from Tanya. I take 2 capsules of the ACV with my lunch meal. I do my best to estimate when I'm going to be taking lunch since I'm at work. Sometimes I take it and then I can't go to lunch for 30 minutes. For example, today I took it at noon but didn't go to lunch until 1:30. Is ACV still helping me? Absolutely, 100%. ACV is also a prebiotic, and it goes right into your gut, and it feeds the probiotics that are in there, helping your body do the war on all the cooties that we all have. Cooties. I mean, we're mostly bacteria. The thing is, we're good bacteria and we're bad bacteria. We want to feed the good bacteria, and we want to kill the bad bacteria. ACV feeds the good bacteria, and it's not going to stop doing that. If you find that your digestion is just a little bit off, you can also take a little bit more ACV. It's not going to hurt you at all. I put milled flax, freshly ground, in at 7:30 into my smoothie, but don't drink it till about 10. Will the milled flax turn into trans fat in that time? No, because it's not sitting out and exposed to air. It's in a mixture, and it's being held captive, shall we say, by your smoothie. So it'll be fine. I also put gelled chia seeds in my smoothie, then grind them along with everything else. Are they doing their job if they're ground, or should I be mixing them in after? That's fine. You're just helping your digestion along. You can do it that way. That was from our girl, Tanya. Aren't you so proud of her? She is hot milk 30ing all the way. She's not stopping. She just keep going. She's lost over 100 pounds, and we are so delighted to watch you, Tanya. It's really fun. In the gala, we had a question. Somebody was asking how much potassium is in Just Juice veggies, and I don't have the answer to that. So I put that into our, I gave that question to our formulator and asked him specifically if they had a number for that. This is from Kim. She said, I just watched the Sprint video. So do you get the bone broth or the hot milk mix, which you make into soup, or are you supposed to have both? I'm confused on that. Well, the hot milk mix is optional, okay? It's just highly recommended, especially if this is your first Sprint, because oftentimes what happens as you go from being a sugar burner to a fat burner, there's a transition period. And it's called the low carb flu or the keto flu. And you just feel like you literally have the flu. And all it is your body changing fuel sources from going from using all the carbohydrates and the glycogen that's in your system to turning over and starting to use your own fat and ketones as your fuel source. Now, hot milk mix has exogenous ketones in it, as well as electrolytes, which will help you feel better. You know how when you feel kind of sick to your stomach or you're dehydrated and you grab a Gatorade and you drink that and it makes you feel better, that's the electrolytes. Or you give Pedialyte to your child, that's the electrolytes. And I don't like either one of them. I love our hot milk mix because not only does it have the electrolytes in it, it also has exogenous ketones in it, which will keep you into ketosis with a little MCT oil in it, which just that little bit of MCT oil helps to help your body really absorb it in. It's amazing stuff. This is what it looks like when it's all mixed up. And I drink it all day long. I used to just break my fast with it. And then I started watching Mark just drink it up, and watching him just lose weight. And he wasn't even trying. And I went, wait a minute, I'm doing this. And it's great. So I go through about 2 scoops a day, but it's in my water bottles that I have it all in. It's delicious and it's a very nice way to get hydrated. So yes, you can have both, but you're supposed to have the bone broth made into the soup, and that's with every meal. Okay. My strong suggestion is that you go through the hot milk Sprint guide. There's 18 pages there. I know it's a lot, but just go through and use your highlighter and highlight everything. It'll make more sense. The other thing is, Kim, definitely make sure that you're a part of our Hot Milk Sprint group on Facebook, because the women in there are not only supportive, but they're also experienced. They've done this a number of times. They've lost the weight, they've kept it off, and they've got really good help and advice and encouragement and support for you. Okay? This is from Julie. She said, I saw a Facebook post on the Hot Milk Sprint account. A member stated that she had asked for blood tests that you have suggested. I have my annual doctor's visit next week and would love the list. I don't remember what that was. So I'm putting it out there. I'm going to say that it was probably the full thyroid panel plus antibodies. Because here she says she was diagnosed as hypothyroid 17 years ago. Blood results didn't change, the clinical range did. So I had the hypothyroidism long before. I've been on, levoxythyroid, since with no change. Okay, this is the thing. This is a synthetic. That's why. It's Synthroid. And Synthroid oftentimes people have no change. And it isn't until they move to a bioidentical that things change. Ask your doctor for WP thyroid. Now, here's a myth that oftentimes doctors will say. They'll say, oh, well, those bioidenticals are really unstable. It's not true. Or you can't count on them to get there. Up and down and up and down. Not true. WP thyroid is the best one that I have found. There's been several of them. Armor is another one that's around for a long time. I do the best on WP thyroid, and that's the one that I've been on for a number of years now. So check that out. She said her body's changed quite a bit, weight gain and weight loss, thanks to you on the loss part, I hope. However, menopause, temperature sensitivities, and high cholesterol. By the way, high cholesterol and having a thyroid out of whack often goes hand in hand. That's one of the side effects of having a wonky thyroid. Not always. Now, my sister had really high cholesterol and, great shape and everything, but also Hashimoto. I didn't get that, right? So it depends clearly on the person. This will be my first visit since being on your program since starting January. Ooh, I can't wait to hear about your blood tests. I know something's changed because I'm getting cold at odd times. And again, thanks to you, I'm down 55 pounds. We love this, Julie. You would think my medicine would change. Thank you for all the wisdom and love that you share. Well, you're so welcome. Definitely ask for a full panel thyroid plus antibodies. Also ask to change to a bioidentical thyroid instead of Synthroid. Synthroid is just, or even the generic of it. Again, it's a synthetic. And for a lot of people, it doesn't change. I don't know how old you are because you're not, but you said menopause. Getting cold at odd times could have a lot to do with the fact that your thyroid medication isn't as effective. Also understand that when we get ranges for any blood test, by the way, doctors are looking to see that you're in the normal range. That's what they're looking, normal, right? Well, what we're talking about here is optimal. We want to feel optimal. That's where the vibrancy lives, right? So for thyroid, can go from 0 to 4. I think it is what used to be 8 or whatever. I'm not even sure anymore. I'd have to review that literature, but we want to be as close to 0 as we possibly can, because that's when our thyroid is doing its job. It's called the TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone. And if it's firing well, then you've got it. It's down in the zeros, down closer to 0. Like mine is like 0.2 or something. I don't even remember what it is exactly. But every time it's happy. It's in the place. I can tell when my thyroid is off, because if I'm like dragging my feet and feel like there's not enough coffee in this day, then I know my thyroid's off. And by the way, you can order your own thyroid TSH kit and do it with with a prick of your finger now. I did not know that. That's how I did it during COVID, so that I could test my TSH. That's only one tiny part of the picture. Remember that. You need to find out, is your inactive T3, is that getting, is that changing over to active T3? And all of it works together. It's just this big mechanism that works. It's complicated, but your body is going to respond to a number of different, shall we say, interventions. And of course, diet and exercise, but also lifestyle interventions like I was speaking earlier with Jerry. So take a look at all of that. And again, remember, we are the ones who make the healthcare decisions for ourselves. And if we don't like what our doctor is saying, if we know our intuitiveness is saying, red alert, no, this is wrong, I don't want this, there could be a reason for you to say to the doctor, no, I'm going to go get a second opinion. And if you have a doctor that you feel is condescending and writing you off and just wants to give you a prescription rather for antidepressants or whatever, that doctor is just trying to get you off his list. He's not working for you on your behalf. You want a doctor who is going to be a part of your healthcare team. You want a doctor that when you go in and say, hey, I read this and I followed up and here's the research that I found that supports this whole thing. If he rolls your eyes at you and says, oh, have we, you went to the school, Google School of Medicine or whatever that is, any doctor like that he's not your friend. He's not an advocate. I'm just letting you know because I've fired a number of doctors. Here's to that. From Deborah, is fiber Mender safe for bariatric patients? It should be. For every 1,000 calories a bariatric patient takes in, you should be getting 15 grams of fiber. That's what the literature says. However, I would absolutely 100% check with your doctor. From what I've found working with coaching clients, actually I had a NutriCoach client and she became a NutriCoach, and her whole specialty was bariatric patients. She had bariatric surgery herself and has done phenomenally on it. The information that's available to bariatric patients is pretty scary. There's not a lot. And if you're finding this kind of a thing, you need to keep searching and searching and searching, finding someone who specializes in the nutrition for post-bariatric surgery, because there's several different types of surgery, as you well know. And, this is the fiber mender. There is a swelling effect, a little bit of a swelling effect, but it swells not in your stomach. It swells in your intestine. That's where you want it to scoop out and take things out. So yes, it should be very safe for you. But again, I will say this to anybody who's had bariatric surgery: you really need to be checking with your doctor. You need to make sure that you're doing this the way you're supposed to be doing this. To go through that kind of a dramatic surgery and that kind of changing up of your whole metabolism, it's crucial and important that you follow the directions of your doctor. And this is not my specialty at all. However, I do know I did research this, and this is what the literature is saying. Okay? So, but just follow up and check with your doctor. Helen is asking, can fiber mender be mixed with my hot milk mix? Not successfully, I don't think. So what I would do with the fiber mender is mix it in with your smoothie, Helen. Mix it in with, you could mix it in your soup. You can mix it in your scrambled eggs. There's a lot of places you can put a little fiber mender and add a dash here and a dash there. You can get real creative with it. As a matter of fact, you know what would be a really good idea? Have you seen those shakers that have the great big holes in it, like pizza places have for the Parmesan cheese? You could take your fiber mender and actually put it in there, and make sure you put the little silica pack in there so that it doesn't clump up because of the moisture. Even, put something over the top when you're, like some saran wrap or something over the top when you're, not using it, and sprinkle it everywhere, as long as you got your hydration up, as long as you're used to taking in at least a scoop. But this is how you can get some extra in. We all have a deficit of fiber. I talk about that all the time. Most women, like 85% of women, are not getting 25 grams of fiber a day. That's the very bare minimum. 35 is optimal. I know women who are doing 50. I don't think you need to do 50. I think you need to do, though, at least 25. 25 is going to make it so that your bowels are moving. And remember, when we do the metabolic cleanup in our body, all of that is our bodies are cleaning up. We breathe it out, we sweat it out, we pee it out, and we poop it out. We get old cholesterol. That's how our cholesterol changes, is we're pooping all out the old cholesterol. That's how we can change it. Fiber does that. Fiber takes all of that clutter, that metabolic clutter, grabs hold of it and takes it out. That's what fiber does. Fiber's amazing. And when we understand this and we're, getting into it, and this is what Helen's trying to do. How can I get more fiber? And can I do it with my hot milk mix? Just do your hot milk mix. If you want to put anything in there, put a little L-glutamine in there. That'll help heal your gut. Also important for optimal health and feeling good. But it'll clump up. I mean, I guess you could put it in a blender. But understand, hot milk mix, not hot milk mix, fiber mender, the longer it stands, the more it thickens up. And then you'll have like this big clumpy thing in there, and you'll say, ooh, I don't want that, which I don't blame you. This is from Lisa. Can you take Infla Crusher with blood thinners? Oh, such a good question. And perhaps you can, and perhaps you can't. You need to check with your doctor. When you're doing, I would love to say yes to this and just, no problem at all. But there's plenty of different blood thinners out there, and there's lots of different things that interact with them. So definitely ask your doctor for doing that, because Infla Crusher is one of our most powerful supplements. And again, curcumin is one of the most studied natural compounds on the planet. And if you go into PubMed, you're going to see thousands of studies showing the efficacy of this versus, some of this, steroidal stuff that people put in their bodies and destroy their poor adrenal glands and what have you with. Isn't it nice that we have things that God intended us to use for this kind of good? I think it's fabulous. All right. Well, I really appreciate the fact that you showed up and that you're here for Q&A. Oh, and I forgot. I said I was going to have something for Food Fight. I don't have that. But if you'll remind me, I will bring it tomorrow for Soulful Saturday, where we're going to finish up the whole week tied up with a great big bow on how to make magic in your own life. You ready for that? I sure hope so. I will see you tomorrow. Peace be with you. Thanks again for joining me.
Thanks for watching. You can find us on YouTube on the Saving Dinner channel or on the Saving Dinner Facebook page. Check back daily for new episodes, Monday to Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you missed the live show, you can watch the replay. Until next time, pinkies up.